Hello, good day everyone. Welcome back to this channel. In today's class, we'll be discussing stratified squamous epithelium with particular emphasis on the differences between the keratinized and the non-keratinized types. Stratified squamous epithelium is a multi-layered epithelium, particularly specialized for protection. The term on the name stratify indicates that it's composed of multiple layers of cells, while squamous refers to flattened shape of the cell at the surface. This epithelium type is specifically adapted to withstand mechanical stress, friction, and abrasion. It forms protective barriers in regions of the body exposed to significant physical wears. Broadly, stratified squamous epithelium is classified into two types: the keratinized types, which contain a surface dead of keratinized feed cells, and the non-keratinized types, which lacks this keratinized layer and retain living cells at the surface. Now, at the basal cells of this stratified squamous epithelium, they are cuboidal or columnar, and it is meiotically active. In this presentation, I will explain their structural differences, functional significance, microscopic features, and anatomical distribution of this type of epithelium. Now let us examine the key features of keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. First, the surface layer is composed of dead cells. This means the cells at the free surface have lost their nuclei and organelles as part of their terminal differentiation. Secondly, the cytoplasm of these superficial cells is densely packed with keratin filaments. Keratin is a tough, fibrous structural protein that provide mechanical strength and resistance to abrasion. Because of this keratin accumulation at the surface layer, the epithelium forms a waterproof barrier. This is particularly important in epidermis of the skin, where it prevents dehydration and protects against environmental damages. Structurally, this epithelium is organized into distinct layers. The deepest layer is a stratum basale. Next is the stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, stratum corneal, or what we call honey layer, which is the superficial layer in this epithelium tissue. Together, this layer enables the tissue to withstand friction, mechanical stress, and water loss. Now looking at the function and location of keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. This epithelium is primarily specialized for protection. It provides protection against abrasion. The multiple cells layer, especially the thick stratum corneum, which is also known as the honey layer, and is seen in the superficial layer of the epithelium, allows the tissue to withstand continuous friction and mechanical stress without damage to the underlying structure. Secondly, it also protects against microbial invasion. The tightly packed cells, which is seen in the stratum granulosum, this surface layer, this stratum granulosum, creates a physical barrier that prevents pathogens from penetrating deeper tissues. Thirdly, it also prevents dehydration. The keratinized free surface cells along the lipid components released from the stratum granulosum also provide a water barrier that reduce transepidermal water loss. This type of epithelium forms the epidermis of the skin, where these protective functions are critically important for survival in a terrestrial environment. And where can we see this type of epithelial tissue? We can see it in the epidermis of the skin. Okay, in this slide, which shows the photomicrograph of keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, we'll be looking at the distinct layer from the deep to the superficial. From the deep layer is what we call stratum basal or also known as basal layer. This is the deepest single layer of cuboidal to columnar cells. It rests on the basement membrane. This layer is where germinal processes occur or where constant cell divisions occur. The next layer is the stratum spinosum, also known as sprinkle cell layer. We can see cells of polyhedral cells. You can see several layers of polyhedral cells. In high magnification, it often shows spines, which are cells to cells junctions. It's this layer actually provides strength and flexibility to the tissue. The next layer is the stratum granulosum, also known as the granular layer. It's a thinner layer of flattened cells containing dark staining keratin. You can see a slightly darker purple fine band around the top of the cellular portion in this image. Next is what we call, actually the function of, before I go to the next layer, the function of stratum granulosum. It's this granules helps bind keratin filaments together and contribute to the water resistance barrier. The next layer, which is the most superficial layer, is the stratum corneum, or also known as corny layer. It is the outermost layer consisting of dead, flattened cells that have lost their nuclei and organelles. These layers are filled with keratin. Function, it acts as a tough water repellent physical barrier against the environment. Here we can see also the photomicrograph of keratin stratified squamous epithelium. From the deepest to the superficial layer, we have the stratum basal, or we know as basal layer, which also rests on the basement membrane, as we've earlier said. The next is the stratum spinosum. The next is the granulosum, and we have the only layer, also known as stratum corneum, which contains or fills with the keratin del cells. We can see the keratinized. You can see the keratinized layer. You can see it. These are the keratinized protein, the del cells protein, superficial layer. So this is how keratinized stratified squamous epithelium epithelial slice. Now let us examine the key features of non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. In this type of stratified squamous epithelium, the surface cells are flattened, similar to the keratinized type. However, unlike the keratinized epithelium, this superficial layer cells remain nucleated, meaning they are still living cells. They are not dead cells, as that of the keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. The surface of this type of stratified squamous epithelium is moist because this epithelium lies the inner body cavities that are kept hydrated by mucus or other secretions. Importantly, there is no keratin layer. Therefore, there is no stratum corneum, or also known as onion layer, which composed of dead cells. As a result, this epithelium does not form a waterproof barrier like the epidermis of the skin. Additionally, the layers are less distinct organized cells compared to the keratin type. Why we can identify the basal layer, the intermediate layer, the superficial flattened cells, the cells in this stratified squamous epithelium. However, the classic layers such as the stratum granulosum, stratum or corneal, or we also know as the onion layer are absent. Now let's look at the function and the location of non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. The non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium is primarily adapted for protection in moist internal environment. First, it provides protection against mechanical injury. The multiple layers of the cells help resist friction caused by swallowing, sexual intercourse, or passage of material through body openings. Unlike the keratinized type, this epithelium also maintain a moist surface because there is no keratin layer. The superficial layer or the superficial cells in the superficial layer remain alive and hydrated, allowing flexibility and resistance to tearing. This type of epithelium surface is severely located in the ectocervix, the oral cavity, the vagina, the esophagus, and the anal canal. In all these regions, the tissue must withstand friction while maintaining moist, which explains why a non-keratinized cell is functionally advantageous. Wow, this slide shows the photomicrograph of non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Unlike the keratinized type, in the superficial layer we will see a dead cells, we can see the keratinized filament, but in this non-keratinized type of stratified squamous, no keratin filament, no dead cells. So these cells are still living, no dead cells. Therefore, there is no onion layer in non-keratinized type of epithelium. And we can see we see as the basal layer, it still has the basal layer which is cuboidal to columnar type. And we look at the superficial layer, it's most are flat cells, squamous cells, and they are in layers, all reach the apical surface. This is a labeled photometric graph of the non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, and this is an esophagus type. So this, you can see this non-keratinized squamous epithelium cells in esophagus, in vagina, in the anal canal, in the ectocervix region. So this is how it looks like. You can see the deepest layer, which is the basal cell layer, which is attached to the basement membrane, is the shape is cuboidal to columnar shape, while the superficial layer is squamous, plate-like cells. So this is how stratified squamous epithelium non-keratinized types look like. Actually, this is also a photograph of non-keratinized type of epithelium. It's This is how ectocervix looks like. I captured the non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium in ectocervix. So we can see the labeled diagram. This is the lamina propria, or also known as stroma. Then this layer is known as the basal layer, close to the basement membrane, and we can see the upper superficial layer, still a flat squamous cells, no keratin, no dead cells, no keratin filaments. So now we will look at the differences between the keratinized and non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Looking at the features on surface cells, it is the keratinized type is made up of dead cell, while the non-keratinized cells is made of living cells. Looking at the feature of keratin, in the keratinized squamous, it is present; in non-keratinized, it is absent. The surface is dry in keratinized. The surface is moist, is moist in non-keratinized. There is water barrier in keratinized stratified squamous, no water barrier stratified squamous, because there's absence of stratum granulosum. That is why it is absent in non-keratinized. Main location, the epidermis of the skin. Main location, mostly in wet mucosal linings, especially the ectocervix, the vagina, the esophagus, and the anal canal. Now we look at the clinical correlates of the stratified squamous epithelial layer. We'll be looking at hyperkeratosis. Hyperkeratosis refers to abnormal thickening of the keratin layer, also known as the honey layer, on the surface of the epithelium. This condition occurs when there is excessive production and accumulation of keratin, usually as a protective response to chronic friction, inflammation, or irritation. As a result, the epithelium surface becomes thicker and more resistant to mechanical stress. Another clinical correlate of stratified squamous epithelium is metaplasia. Metaplasia, on the other hand, is a reversible adaptive process in which one mature cell type is replaced by another mature cell types that is better suited to withstand a particular stress. In epithelial tissues, chronic irritation can cause non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium to transform into a keratinized type. This change enhances protection against constant mechanical or chemical irritation. Although prolonged metaplasia may increase the risk of pathological changes if underlying causes persist. As we conclude this presentation of stratified squamous epithelium, remember that this TU is fundamentally designed for protection, whether keratinized or non-keratinized. Its multi-layer organization reflects a clear structural adaptation to mechanical stress. Understanding its microscopic architecture, which we have seen here, the basal cell regeneration, progressive cellular maturation, and surface specialization, provides a foundation for recognizing both histology and pathological alteration. If you find this lesson helpful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to HistologyPro, and turn on the notification bell so you will never miss an update. Your support helps this channel continue to delivering clear, high quality histology content. See you in the next class. Bye.